Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. How you doing today? I hope everybody is well. How have you enjoyed this morning's results? Interesting one. Interesting one. I think I've got a take about what we're seeing happen now, which is a bit to be expected, but also makes it really, really almost more important for United this weekend in terms of what happens next, or where they're going to be in the league moving forward and finding our place and all of that. So a few things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about United, obviously, this talk about Zirkzee and Mainoo, that they could be leaving after AFCON, and I want to tell you my thoughts on that because I have I think it's becoming potentially clear that they could be on their way out after January or after AFCON. And I'll tell you why the signals right now, in my opinion, are pointing in that direction. And maybe we're in for a little bit of a surprise because I just wonder if we are. Ruben Amorim is also doubling down on his Semenyo love affair. Shouldn't call it that, but, on his Semenyo admiration, and making more comments in an interview about Semenyo, making it very clear who he was referring to in his interview. And then, in addition, you've got... and then in addition, I want to talk about the table. So let's first talk here a little bit about the table and what's happening, because it's an easy subject to start with. And I think what we're seeing this weekend, and I've watched most of the Chelsea versus Everton game. Shout out Alejandro Garnacho for doing what Alejandro Garnacho does and proving all us Garnacho haters right every single day. Same player he's always been, same player he's been for years. Missing tap-ins, missing open goals, missing shots. But it was an interesting one because I wouldn't say Chelsea deserved to win, but you'll get that, right? You won't get the same level of scrutiny over winning that match against Everton as you get from United beating Wolves 4-1. Everton probably should have scored 2 or 3 goals in that game quite easily, to be honest. I mean, there was a point both times right before Chelsea scored, Everton were knocking at the door, starting to make chances, starting to get in on net. Grealish was through. They had a couple low crosses right across the face of goal that the striker just didn't get to. They should have scored goals. They didn't. Chelsea were effective on the break. Cole Palmer, obviously, scoring. Malo Gusto scoring. A fullback scoring. That's illegal, by the way. Fullbacks not allowed to create chances for fullbacks. Maresca out. Sack the fraud. That's what I've been told. Creating chances for fullbacks is unacceptable in football. Only United do it, and it is an awful, awful thing that should be outlawed. It's not the United way. So, as we know, our fullbacks never scored any goals under Sir Alex. So I think it's really important we stick with the past. But regardless of that, Liverpool score against Brighton. Chelsea score against Chelsea, get their goals, and the pack starts to ever so slightly pull away. If you take a look at it, here's what I mean. If you look now at what could happen this week, and Man City are playing Palace, right? If United win, I'm not saying like this is like a United need to win to climb the table thing. What I'm saying is if United win and go to 28, then the top 5 will very likely start to separate themselves out, right? Where 5th is no longer 2 points from 12th. 5th will probably be, by weekend's end, maybe, I guess it could still shake out a certain way, but you're seeing Everton lose, Brighton lose. Like, the best of the rest are starting to drop off. I expect, not everybody here is going to gain points. So you could end up in a position where now you're 6, 7, 8, points off of, that bottom half where the gap starts to spread. And I think we'll see that soon. We usually do during this festive period. We see this 5th and 6th pull away a little from 7th and 8th, and 7th and 8th pull a little away from the bottom. I think we'll start to see a little bit more delineation of who are the clubs that are real and who are the pretenders. Always happens right now, but it makes it really important because you're starting to see a lot of these mid-table teams start to fall off, right? Sunderland were 4th a few weeks back. They've been falling off. Everton falling off. Brighton falling off. Tottenham never been on. Newcastle, similar. Bournemouth have fallen off heavily. So you're starting to see that gap separate there. That Christmas gap happens every single year. Or we lose. We don't win. And what that would tell us is not what that would tell us is that we'll be the team that's caught in the middle, where we're not really good enough to be in the top 4 or 5 Champions League clubs, right? If we can't win these games, we're not in the top 5. We won't be good enough to be in the top 5. We will be, I've said in the past, I see us this season as anywhere between 4th and 8th. Well, I think that's going to start to separate itself out. And it's games like these that'll determine, are we in the 4th to 5th range, or are we in the 6th to 8th range? And these are the games that are going to prove that, is we're going to be one of those middle teams, not good enough for top 4 or 5, not bad enough for bottom half, but in the 6 to 8 range. I'm curious to see. This is a big game in that respect, because with AFCON coming, with everything that's happening, it's still a strong team that we will have. It's still a strong team that we will have. Will Mbeumo and Ahmad be in the game? So here's something to think about, is that there are other Ivory Coast players out there in Europe. Indica at Roma will be playing on Monday. So I believe Ahmad will be playing. I believe Mbeumo will be playing. I think we have them for Monday. I know that nobody's wanted to confirm, but I'm pretty confident that we will have them for Monday at this point. So yeah, I think we'll be fine in that respect. I think we'll keep them. So this is sort of our last chance to be mostly full strength. We'll still minus Sesko, but we still have plenty enough to win at that point. So this is a big one. And again, it's not about opportunity for top 4 or 5. I think when you look at this, Bournemouth, they've been bad, like straight up bad recently. Bournemouth's last stretch of results are, let me pull it up here. If you look at them, like they've been struggling. They've been on the full-on struggle bus. Let's take a look at the results here. Draw to Chelsea, lost to Everton, lost to Sunderland, draw to West Ham, lost to Villa, lost to City. That's 6 games without a win. A lot of losses in there. Yeah, they've conceded 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, and 0. We should be scoring goals against them. Could they score against us? Maybe. They scored 1, 0, 2, 2, 0, 0. So they haven't been great at scoring either. Right? So I think these are the games that we start to learn. Are we in that top 5? And you might say, well, not like in terms of where we stand in the table, but are we actually there? Do we deserve to be there? And you might say, well, we're shit, we're terrible, we're bad, we don't play great football. We talked about all this yesterday, right? We know we don't play great football. That's okay. But when you look at the teams in the Premier League who does, we need to find out, are we one of the teams that is at the upper end of, we don't play great football, but we're starting to be consistent. We're starting to beat the teams we're supposed to beat. We're starting to be where we need to be. This is a big test for that. I think these games mean a lot when it comes to the determination, the measuring of United season and progress. I think these games matter a lot in that respect, right? Because we haven't been perfect. We certainly haven't been great. But if you look at the games we're supposed to win, lost to Everton, draw to West Ham, you can't you beat Wolves. You got to turn this around. You've got to turn this around. And be beating a team you're supposed to beat like Bournemouth. You have to, right? Otherwise, it's hard to make the argument about consistency. It's hard to make an argument about progress if you're not winning these games. Because you also have a tough game away at Aston Villa after, which maybe we'll be better at than the games that were like this. But, you have to be beating these, because then it's okay if you get a draw at Aston Villa. It's okay in that instance if that happens. So it's a big one. Sesko, yes, looks unlikely to make the squad. A couple of things interesting wise. I think that besides obviously Shea Lacey, we could very well see Diego Leon in the senior squad during this AFCON run as well. We could definitely see that, because which makes sense. He's been in around the first team a little bit more recently, but also, once Mazraoui is gone, and especially, of course, Ahmad is gone, you're going to be starting Dalot and Dorgu at fullbacks. You've got no fullback subs on the bench. So Diego Leon will have to be taking up one of those positions. Obviously, if someone like Aiden Heaven could potentially fill in at fullback in a pinch, he's certainly done it before. I think we'd be more willing to do that maybe than Shaw, just from can't risk an injury to Shaw while we're short on players. But that was going to be we've got this 10-game stretch was supposed to be easier. We've got to string some wins together now to make up for some of the mess ups. We won the hard one at Palace away and screwed up the easy one in terms of West Ham, and then Everton was probably not the easiest one, but certainly was a very, very winnable one. But we've still lost 1 in 9, so we take that and we move forward. So those couple pieces of news. I do think we will have our AFCON players for Monday. Okay, I do think we will have our AFCON players for Monday. But then I think they'll be gone after that. I think Shea Lacey, Diego Leon, maybe Fletcher would be the 3 youth players that we could have in there. It's definitely an interesting time when it comes to, this is such a pivotal moment, because Everton was our worst performance of the season. It was the worst game of the season for sure. Look, it's like we've talked a lot, and I don't make like big claims about, we're definitely really good or we're really bad or anything. I like to stay very leveled, but this is such a key part of the season for me in terms of a judgment of where we are. I'm not expecting us to play amazing football. I'm not expecting us to do great. But what I am expecting is that we start winning these games more consistently. When we're getting games like Wolves and Bournemouth, 14th and 20th in the league, that we string 2 wins together, right? That's what I'm expecting, that we can string 2 wins together against those clubs, and that we can produce results against those clubs a little more consistently. We're not going to win all of them, but we got to be winning 3 out of 4. During this 10-game stretch, we've played 4 games now, and we are on 7 points. I said you need to pretty much have 2 points per game during this stretch for it to be successful. If we can get 3 here at against Bournemouth, then obviously we're at 5 and 10. Perfect. Then we're right on schedule. You know what I mean? We're right on schedule if we can get this win against Bournemouth. So, it's just about consistency. I don't really care how we make the points up, but we've got to be able to, over this stretch of games, be winning the right number of points. And I think we'll learn a lot. If we don't be beating Bournemouth at home, given the situation, then it's understandable why people are going to have lots of doubts. And a lot of those doubts are more valid if we're not winning those games. If we can't string 2 back-to-back Wolves against Bournemouth, if we can't string 2 wins together again, we've still only done it once. Back-to-back wins in the Premier League, we've still only done it one time. I know that it's a bit of a meme, and that obviously prior to that 3-game streak, it was being talked about a lot. But we've still only won back-to-back games in that stretch of 3 this entire season. So, we need to be able to show that we're not going to go all season with one stretch of 3 games, one back-to-back, and it's not going to be up, down so much. That would feel a lot better in terms of consistency. So, yeah, this is a big game in that respect. Do we separate ourselves? Does the table start to make a little more sense, even if we're not, we're 4th for 1 week. That's not where we're going to be. Even if it still bounces around, as long as we're in that top 5 range, then I'm happy. Then we're, to me, even a little ahead of schedule. But I'd be definitely disappointed if we start dropping these ones. Now, let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk a little bit. And by the way, we need 1 goal to get back into 3rd place in terms of goals scored. So surely we can't bottle that. Let's talk about this Zirkzee and Mainoo situation. So I watched Fabrizio's video about it. We know the little talk about Semenyo. We know the little talk about other players. We know that, as far as I've heard, that we could definitely still do business in January. But, here's the question, okay? And when you start to add up all the little pieces, it starts to paint, I think, a little bit of a picture here. If you take it, as it is, we're essentially telling teams on Kabi and Zirkzee, not necessarily no, but not now. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear and get the idea that the club is saying, when being asked, will a player go, can we get this player on loan? Can we buy this player? And they're saying, not now. We'll talk after AFCON. I'm thinking that they're going to move. And I'm also thinking that probably means we want to line something up as well in terms of a replacement, because we're saying, we need something in potentially, so we're not short, but we're willing to let them go. If clubs are saying about Ellie Anderson, not January, but in summer, that means he's for sale, right? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because my take on it is that this is a very different response than I heard last year. You know what I mean? Last year, I heard pretty emphatically on my side, when there were stories about Kabi moving in January, I heard pretty emphatically, no, not going to happen. We don't want to let him go. In summer, it was the same. In January, the tone has shifted, certainly. Not particularly surprising. That I think they could leave. If Zirkzee wants to stay, though, then I think he stays. As long as he wants to stay. Kabi wants to leave. It's starting to feel like this could happen a lot sooner than expected. That things have degenerated and that this could happen a lot sooner than expected. Now, the plus on it is that I don't think we would do it unless we have something in the works in order to add to the team. What that is, we can't say yet. We know there's a lot of players that they're looking at. There's a lot of players being considered. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen now. It's a very interesting timing. Certainly we can go and get better than Zirkzee while he still has value. Maybe. And I think that's why the club would be open to it, because maybe we could get better. Maybe we could get better. With Kabi, though, what midfielder can we get? What midfielder could we get? You know? What midfielder could we get to replace him? And the thing is, yes, Kabi wants to leave on loan, Mbeumo, but why would United want to let a player go on loan? That's a part of their main squad. That's been in every match day squad when healthy. That comes on the pitch most games. I get not for an incredibly significant amount of minutes, but we've also been blessed that our 67-year-old midfield has had 0 injuries, 0 fitness problems, and that we've had the lightest schedule up till this point in time. So it wouldn't make sense for the club to let Kabi go on loan, quite honestly. And if they did, again, I would suggest that that would be eyes toward a permanent one, because they'd need to replace him. And they'd want to replace him. And then there might not be a spot when he comes back. Now, one could say, sure, Kabi goes out on loan, Gallagher comes in on loan. Again, why? Like, here's my point on that, right? Like, here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. Okay? Kabi out on loan, Gallagher in on loan. Like, even forgetting the quality of the players, because I wouldn't make that swap in a million years myself. If that were to happen, it tells you that you're basically saying we don't want Kabi at all at that point in time. Because again, why would you let him go? You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really make sense to let him go in any circumstance, unless you're not wanting him back and he's leaving. You know what I mean? Permanently in the end. There's just that's my point. Agree or disagree. That's my observation of the situation, is that if Kabi is being allowed to leave, he's not coming back. Because loaning out Kabi to loan Gallagher in doesn't make any sense. Why would you just don't loan Kabi? You know, what it says is that you don't rate Kabi, or you just don't think he wants to be here and you've made the decision to move him on. So in any sense, it feels as though we might be moving on from this. And I just found the report, the way that it was said from Fabrizio, quite interesting in saying that we're talking about, you know, no firm answer until after AFCON. Obviously, United are certainly open to opportunities and seeing for, you know, bringing players in, and then letting a player go. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. It's a very, very interesting thing here. Kabi not playing with the very sketchy performance of Casemiro means something bigger is at play. It doesn't make sense. I'll tell you what's confusing about that. I got to tell you guys, I want to debate this topic with you, okay? This Casemiro topic, because I've been absolutely stunned. And I do mean like stunned at what I see about Casemiro out there. And I'm not trying to be a dick to Casemiro. I think Casemiro's had obviously one of the greatest careers of all time as a number 6, and at Madrid, obviously one of the best, if not the best in the league.
Rashford, Garnacho and Mainoo. All academy. Okay then.
I mean, not doing any favors to Mainoo grouping them up with the other two situations, because they're very different. Like I said, I think that's drawing threads that aren't there. Rashford wasn't sold because he was an academy player, and Garnacho was certainly not sold because he was an academy player. They were moved on for reasons that were entirely under their own control. You know, so maybe, no, I'm not going to suggest anything because I don't want to suggest something that isn't true. But the point is if you're grouping them all together, that might not paint a good picture for Kabi. Even incorrectly so, that doesn't paint a good picture for Kabi. It was very much correct for the other two to leave. for reasons of that would, the other two leaving, one might sit there and go, hang on, what's wrong that a bunch of these players don't know how to behave? You know what I'm saying? Whereas, you don't want to necessarily group Kabi into that situation. You just don't want to move. I wouldn't group Kabi into that. If you're a Kabi fan, don't group him into that. Okay. But what I was saying there is that what I don't understand about Casemiro is like I said, I've rated Casemiro's career incredibly highly. I rate even what he did at United in his first season very highly. I don't understand presently the narrative around Casemiro, because I was shocked to see when I step out of my own bubble, a lot of people think Casemiro is doing an incredible job week in and week out. And I got to say, like, if people are seeing it that way, then there's no wonder, no wonder people think the system is bad, because they're thinking that your two midfielders are playing incredible week in and week out, and we can't control a game. So it starts to make sense to me why people blame the manager. If you're watching games and thinking Casemiro's been amazing, then yeah, you're going to be looking at the system and saying, oh, it's crap. Because I thought he was doing decently well up till about maybe Sunderland, maybe Liverpool. And since then, it's been bad. And I mean straight up bad. And I'm confused how anybody can see it kind of differently, because I'm watching Casemiro, and I can't look. I'm as big a critic. I criticize Bruno for lots of things, and I put it down to that beforehand. But I'm watching Casemiro on his own merit, game after game, and once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. What he does. Very often, things like, very often, what he does is things like he'll stand in the wrong spot away from the ball, so you don't notice him if you're watching the ball, right? And I'm not trying to be one of those like, don't watch the ball, you don't understand the game type of people, but if you watch Casemiro, you will see a totally different game than if you watch the ball. If you watch the ball, you'll think Casemiro is great.
Win FFS
I hear you. I hear you. We should be able to enjoy the wins. If you watch the ball, you'll think Casemiro's amazing. If you watch Casemiro, you go, the fuck? Seriously. Because you'll watch him stand away from the ball in the wrong spot, wrong side of the attacking player, wrong side of the ball, wrong side of the play. And then it'll bounce towards our goal and they'll start running onto it. And then you'll see him head down, chugging away. You know what I mean? Trying to get back in position. And it's like, oh, cool. He's working real hard, but he screwed up in the first place. He's in that position of sprinting back, putting in all this effort and making a desperate slide because he screwed up. Because he was in the wrong spot. And you'll see it with second balls, like ball bouncing, it's going to them, and then Casemiro makes a last-ditch thing. But the other 5 times the ball bounced around in the midfield, he's nowhere near it. And you don't really notice just how bad the positioning is, just how bad the legs are. And again, I want to make it very, very clear. I think this is almost entirely an issue of of age, okay? Not ability, not quality, not like Casemiro is a crappy player or something like that. I'm saying it's very, very specifically an issue of age. And yeah, look, hold on. These are the only 2 kits that I have purchased in 10 years. Ready? That's it. These are the only 2 I've purchased in 10 years. And I think people think I hate these players. But it's not like that. It's purely observational. These are the only 2 kits that I've bought in 10 years. Seriously, I didn't even buy Rashford's. I didn't buy Fred's. I should have, but I didn't even buy these guys. I bought Casemiro and Mbeumo because I very much respect and think at the times of their career, they've been incredible and have done amazing things. And Mbeumo did amazing things when he came to the club. And he's still an incredibly talented player, and so is Casemiro, one of the greatest players in quality of all time. But when you start to actually hyper focus on it, yeah, both 18, right? When you start to focus on it, it's you go there like, yes, I hyper fixate on Casemiro because once you notice it, you can't stop noticing it. You can't stop noticing that every time the ball bounces up in the midfield, he waits for some one-time flashy pass that very often goes awry. But when it does, it looks incredible. You know, it's really hard to demonstrate it because Casemiro is, in a lot of instances, a very, very high efficiency player when he plays. And I think that's where it confuses things, right? They're different. Bruno and Casemiro struggle in 2 different ways, okay? Casemiro doesn't actually compete for the ball at the level you would want him to in the midfield and things like that. He's not necessarily challenging loose balls, things like that all the time. And then, what the hell is that? And then, and then Bruno rushes around too much and does it. So it's different issues. And yeah, you hyperfixate, but once you notice it, it's impossible to not notice it. And you start to go, what's going on? You know what I mean? And, yeah, I don't know. And I'm surprised that people don't see it, you know? And again, it's like, it's so hard to have these discussions without it being understood, like what the problem is, you know what I mean? Because you'll look at it and be like, the stats say everything's like amazing for different reasons. But I will tell you what both stats show of Casemiro and Bruno. Neither of those guys can fucking dribble, okay? Neither of those guys can dribble. And I think that's the biggest problem, actually. Because, look, out of possession, we know, and Casemiro's still exceptionally useful. Clearances on crosses in the box, the same thing where we miss Maguire, in the box, right? He's still so good at both ends on that front, and same as Maguire, and I rate that, right? But neither of them can dribble the damn ball to save their life, Bruno and Casemiro. They just can't. And that is one of the reasons why our midfield loses control and is so frenetic all the time. Neither of them can dribble the ball. Bruno has really high number of carries into open space, but if you look at his dribbling, it's terrible. If you look at Casemiro, he never dribbles and he never carries the ball, like ever. He just doesn't do it, And so it's like it's kind of funny. We kind of get opposite issues of both of them when they're also really good at other things as well. But we have these, it's like they're really good at a couple of things. Both of them are still really good at a few things and really bad at the other ones. And so they don't do it. And that is why you can't notice it as much. I think that's what's going on, is that they're both obviously such incredible players. And the thing is, when players get older, there's certain things they can still do. Like, I watched David Beckham play in that Legends game. You guys remember this was like, what, 2020, 2019? You remember the Legends game? And I remember watching David Beckham hit crosses and going, genuinely, he can still cross the ball better than anybody on our team. And he was like, 48 years old or 50 years old or something like that, right? Like, do you remember? I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was the kit that had the really big badge, like the huge shield, right? I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I remember seeing David Beckham cross the ball in that, against Bayern. That's it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, the technique never leaves you. right? Even retired for years, the technique was still there, the quality was still there. But you're not going to obviously you're not going to do what you can't do, right? And that makes it hard to notice it. So you could, I think both Bruno and Casemiro will specialize in doing the things that they're good at, and it makes it harder to notice all the things they're not doing. And if you start to look for it, then you're like, damn, okay, yeah, I see the problem there. But I was just surprised by that, because I've looked at that and thought, well, it makes sense to me though. Like I said, I don't think people are. There's people who are intentionally hypercritical. There's people who want Amorim's system to be bad, want us to fail, and there's people who obviously have their genuine observations. But it's interesting because it's like, yeah, I think if you look and think, oh yeah, Casemiro's been amazing, and you see it that way, then obviously you're going to look at the system and say it must be the system's fault. We can't control games. So I get it. Like logic, there's a logic there that makes sense. What's up, Andy? How you doing, my friend? So yeah, it's very, very interesting that, and it's just something I noticed, and I was thinking, like, I don't want to do it because I would never want to sit there and do like a hate along, because that's not the idea, or like a critique along. But I was thinking about, like, I'd really love to sit with somebody who thinks Casemiro's been good and rewatch a game with them side by side and just say, all right, let's actually focus on Casemiro and watch every action. And even when he doesn't touch the ball, that's the important part. Even when he's not on the ball, not just the times when he's on the ball, but all the other times, watch him and see. And I think people's minds would change pretty dramatically if you did that. But yeah, I don't want to do that, because it feels like that would be just like hyperfixating on for a reason to critique. But I think it would be an interesting exercise anyway, and if only we could freely watch games and stream them without copyright, I would absolutely do something like that, just so one could look at it and just say, I did this a couple times in Patreon, because in the Patreon and Discord, which, by the way, I haven't barely ever talked about it, but it's still the best place to be. Still the best place to join, still the best place to take part in the community. I spend a lot of time there talking, sharing updates, news, things like that. So make sure to join the Patreon now ahead of the January window and all of that as well. But when I did that in a game earlier this year, where I think it was Man City, because I was really critical of Bruno on that game. I thought he was awful. I thought he was the main reason we lost. And I was like, all right, am I being hypercritical, or am I right? Am I just seeing what maybe some people aren't? And I did a stream in there, and I streamed it in there. It's private, so it was okay. I watched the game with people, and would pause and point out everything that I saw. No disagreements. Nobody could disagree with it. And look, the people, people have very varied opinions on Bruno. Everybody's not sitting there agreeing with me on Bruno, I promise. But once we looked at it that way, there was no disagreement about that game in particular, about every point that I looked at. That's not to say I'm a genius. What I'm saying is that there's so much going on in a game that people will focus on different things. And that's why they see things differently very often. Somebody focuses on this aspect, a lot of things slide by under the radar, and you don't see it, or you see a different thing because you're focusing on a different thing. It's pretty normal, and so I found that to be an interesting exercise. Maybe it's something I'll do as a Patreon perk. It's just like occasionally just watch through games with a specific focus on something and see, what happens. But it was just interesting. Have you seen the Maddie? You mean Maddie FC? I mean, look, Maddie's he's a nice guy. He's a positive guy, and that's like his whole thing. I don't get why people have to jump on people for that kind of stuff. He's a positive guy, but it was interesting because he's one of the ones I would say as an example where, he sees Casemiro doing really, really well. And that's fine though, because again, whatever, he's a very positive guy. It's cool. But yeah, it's interesting. So, somebody asked there, well, who can replace Casemiro, Mainoo or Ugarte? Well, that's part of the problem, right? Who can? I don't know. I think Mainoo can, because I genuinely don't believe we're getting that much out of Casemiro's legs. Now, what we lose, 100% agreed, what we do lose is the aerial presence in our own box and the other box. You know what I mean? Is the aerial presence in both boxes when Casemiro is gone. You know what I mean? And that would be a genuine loss, but I do think that Mainoo could do everything else he does better right now. You know, I don't think he'll have 74% pass completion, and I think he'll keep the ball better. I think he can carry it out of tight spaces. I think he could beat the press. I think Mainoo is a very competent defender in my eyes, and I don't think Casemiro is making up more ground. Do I think Mainoo Bruno is a good midfield? No, I don't think it is. I don't think they necessarily suit each other. But at the same time, like, so what? It's not. I don't think it's working now. You know what I mean? I said that before and the other day. I don't think it's working now. So, you know, yeah, I think it'd be not ideal, but a best of a bad situation type of thing to make a change there. I would also say that, you know, maybe throwing Maguire, maybe once Maguire is back or we have a bit more aerial presence in the middle, that would help us. You know what I mean? Mainoo at the 6, the counterattacks would kill us. They're killing us anyway, though. That's the thing. Like, you're not wrong. Look, this is the point I try to make. Until we fix our team, you're not wrong. But we're not stopping counters with Casemiro anyway. The only midfielder that will stop counters is Ugarte. He does stop counters. He actually is quite good at it. On corners, he's often sitting deeper. He has more pace. He'll run into players, get a yellow, doesn't matter. But you lose a lot by playing Ugarte then. So it's like, yeah, because we don't have the ideal players, you're going to have to make trade-offs somewhere. But that's just that again, that's just my opinion. I see it and say there's one of two things going on. That either Amorim and them can't see with Casemiro what like the flaws, which would be really concerning to me, or they do see the flaws and there's another reason that Mainoo isn't playing, which is certainly a bit problematic.
But Backy on Twitter posts full matches. Maybe we can watch those? Maybe on the Discord for members?
Yeah.
I'd kid would be cool to watch those.
Yeah, no, it would be fine. It would be fine. We can, I have the ability to watch the games and Discord and stuff like that. It's just taking the time, you know, to do it. So yeah. Anyway, it's fine. But yeah, it's just an interesting kind of dilemma there that obviously we have, because there isn't an ideal option, and we make compromises in quite a few positions around the box. We make compromises in quite a few positions in the team rather, which is interesting. Anyway, yeah. So I'm curious what happens here. And the reason, by the way, when someone said, "Hey, well, why would we not let Zirkzee and Mainoo?" Or I think specifically someone asked earlier, "Why not Mainoo during AFCON?" You know, because we're not losing midfielders, but we are losing forwards. Mainoo has been subbed as a 10. Mainoo has played as a 10. Bruno can still be moved to the 10. There's a lot of reasons for that still. You know, that we would still need midfielders. Like, changes to the whole team certainly have an impact everywhere else. Is Gomez still an option? I don't know. It sounds like not, you know, based on some of the reports that are there. It sounds like not. So, which kind of a bummer, because like I watch Gomez here. I'm watching Arsenal versus Wolves. You can flexion a little bit. I don't want to so too long so it doesn't get somehow picked up. But you know, I watch Gomez, and even like against Arsenal, against good teams, and how bad Wolves are, Gomez is good. Gomez is really good. He's good under pressure. He wins it. You know, it feels silly that we wouldn't be going for him. I don't know what the answer is for that. I don't know why. It seems like maybe the price is high. I would absolutely sell Zirkzee for Semenyo in January. Yes. I would absolutely sell Zirkzee for Semenyo. And I wonder about that, you know, but Semenyo's release clause is only up until January 10th. So, Was Amram obviously talking about Semenyo with a special player? Yeah, he even said it in a later interview, I believe, that was posted. One of those more interviews, he talked in more specific and said Semenyo. Yeah, I think Wolves did just say no because they made promises to their manager, essentially, that they wouldn't sell. Now, how strong those promises are, maybe we can test them again in January, but we'll see. Yeah, Arsenal have not scored for 16 minutes, so obviously, and they're at home, right? So obviously they're very bad if they haven't scored in 16 minutes against Wolves. That's what I've heard. What about Ruben Neves in January? It's an interesting name, but does it really fit what we want to do? But Zirkzee's staying, right? I think Zirkzee wants to stay. Ederson would be nice. Ederson would be a good option, but also quite different to Gomez, you know? Ederson is... I think Ederson's much more attacking. And then there's Adams. Alex Scott over at Bournemouth. Definitely a player that is on United's radar in some respect or another. I'm not saying like a target for now or a top target or anything, but certainly on United's radar. There's one other guy at Bournemouth that I think is on United's radar. One of the fullbacks, I believe. I forget his name, and I can't pronounce it anyway. I know that, or I pronounce it wrong. I don't know. There's one other guy at Bournemouth that they've been interested in. Don't remember. But again, I don't think those are January things. I think those are just general interests for the long-term picture. If we end up buying like a fullback or a wide defender or something like that. Yeah, that's the name. I just don't know how to Truffert. Is it just Truffert? I don't think that's right. Truffet? I don't know. But that is the name, yes. That is the name, yes. Interesting thing, if you look at Bournemouth and United, I was comparing the team's radars the other day. Or yesterday, and I pulled it up here. If you look at Bournemouth, they really have an identity as a pressing side, which is quite impressive, to be fair. But if you look at everything else, we've come a long way by the numbers in terms of improvement. Like, we're starting to get kind of well-rounded, Certainly, I think better than we've been. This is 23-24. So this is the season we finished 8th. So by all the numbers, we're doing a lot better than we used to be. Not just being a counter-attacking team. We're still good on the counter, but not just. It is funny, though. Oh, wait, that's the wrong season. I was like, why does that match exactly? I meant to do 24-25. And then compared to last season, we've gone a bit more fast on the attacks, press a little more. Obviously, it's resulting in a lot better scoring of goals, even if we've gone a little down in possession. But, yeah, it's interesting, Bournemouth. They're a very good pressing side, and they, press and counter, but just not as good as we do, basically. They press a little bit more, counter a little less, and everything else is worse. United looked decent this year by the way of the numbers. If you compare it to like a Chelsea are
got a name for you to check out. Mamadou Sangare.
I've heard that one a lot, and I'd be happy to look into it, but it's one of those names where you get like, people are always suggesting it. That's data.mb, that one. That's data.mb, that one. I've heard a bit about him. I can't say I've watched him much. I have no idea if United are keeping an eye on him, but obviously a lot of suggestions about him as a player. As a reminder, Monday, I will be doing the watch along live over on Big Up and the Game. The picks are live. Somebody won $120, $60, $60, a bunch last time. People were when we actually win, it seems like people are mostly betting on us winning, you know. And again, they're these cheap little picks. You just pick a couple of things here. I think it has right now. It has the odds displayed. Not that it actually affects it, because it's actually quite basic. It's just you play multiple picks, you can win more, things like that. But there's just like a little visual glitch there. But yeah, these are the bets. Now look, with Sesko unlikely to play, we could figure a few of these out already. But yes, go get your picks in to play the game, to submit your choices before Monday. There's been some really good wins, which is cool, considering, again, it's a fun little game that you can't gamble your life away. So yeah, I haven't decided on my picks yet, but go get your picks in as well for that. Dan James at left wing back. Are you doing a Cameroon versus Ivory Coast watch along 28 December? I might as well. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm certainly need to prep my international. True fair. Thank you. I certainly need to prep my international watch along legs, because I'm going to do it all summer for the World Cup. I'm going to be doing like daily watch alongs for the World Cup. Every big game, I'm there, man. I love the World Cup. I hate international football during the season, like all the little breaks and stuff. Can't stand it. Won't ever do it in terms of watch alongs. I love the World Cup though. The World Cup, we will be doing watch-alongs for all of those. I have no idea what time the AFCON games and such are. As long as they're not at night, like when the World Cup happens, I might have to shift my schedule depending on when the World Cup games are. I might do fewer streams during the day and more of them at night. Just depends on the scheduling. Last time, because it was in Saudi, they were all during the day, or Qatar, right? But they were all during the day for me. This time, are they going to be in the evening in the U.S.? Are they going to be like 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night? Are they going to be 1 in the morning? Do you guys know, by the way? I actually haven't looked into it. When are they going to be? When are they going to be for you guys, by the way? Like, what time are the games going to be for you over in the UK? Are they scheduled yet, or is it just dates? Do we not know the times? Because usually they're done like afternoon to evening local time for all football stuff, right? I mean, so yeah, I might shift my schedule then and do like my streams on like transfers and all that, like 3 in the afternoon and then do watch longs in the evening. But that'll kind of suck for that time actually. Matinees, early evening, prime time. Okay. So maybe occasionally I'll do the primetime one, the 6 or 7 o'clock ones, for like the bigger matches. But I'll mostly try to focus on still doing them during the day. What's with the Americans on Twitter defending the outrageous World Cup ticket prices? Yeah, well, it's because we're used to it. That doesn't make it okay. Trust me. The reason I don't go to games a lot, like the reason I don't go to NFL games and things like that, is because of the absurd ticket prices. It's so expensive. That drove me out of being wanting to keep up a while ago. It is so expensive. I mean, even NBA games are absurd at how much you'll have to often pay. You know, so it's just, I don't know, Americans being unsurprised by it and wondering why you guys are so panicked about it. But at the same time, like, that doesn't make that okay. It's actually a really shitty part of our sport. It's just how fucking expensive it is to watch. It's so expensive. 8, 10, 12, 2 a.m. Okay, so that's like 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. So I can probably do the 1s and the 3s and then an occasional 5 or 7, depending. Yeah, it's so expensive, man. Like, it's so expensive to follow sports here. It's just, so people are used to it. I don't know why. Maybe they feel it's like elitism. Yeah. I don't know why. But yeah, anyway, I think that's mostly all I wanted to discuss today. Tomorrow morning, I'll be live earlier, maybe 9 a.m. my time. Like I said, it's my son's birthday party. later on that day that in the afternoon. So I'll be doing that, and then Monday we'll be here for the game. But yeah, let's see. I feel that there's some serious gears in motion with regards to this January window right now. Some serious gears in motion. I feel it just based on talking to people, checking things out, the news that's out there, everything adding together, good or bad. It feels like there's some wheels in motion at the moment, and I guess we'll see, man. I guess we'll see what that means. Wolves 1-on-1 with Arsenal. Oh, and they can't score. So close. So close. But yes, guys, please do make sure to smash a like as you're here. It means, like I say, it always means an awful lot to me. You guys know that. I appreciate it very much. You guys doing that makes a big difference to me. So yes, please do smash a like on the video when you get the chance to, as we wrap this all up. And yeah, I guess we'll see. What happens in the next few days. But I'll be back tomorrow morning, my time, early afternoon for the rest of you. And then obviously on Monday. And as a reminder, got to do it. Get your picks in before the game, for Monday's game. And obviously I'll be over there for the watch along as well once we are live. Arsenal 0 shots on goal in 30 minutes. Wolves have more shots on goal than Arsenal. People really disliked our 4-1 win away. So obviously, Arsenal are going to win this, but still. You know, it's not always easy, man. It's not always easy. It ain't easy, man. I mean, our first half performance was better than this so far. We created a lot more chances than this and scored a goal. I mean, obviously, it's only 30 minutes in, but hey, I don't know. All right, guys, thank you all for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll see you tomorrow. Please do make sure to drop a like on the video. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for the subs. Thank you for everything. And I will catch you all tomorrow, okay? Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye. Enjoy your weekend.